Raise your hand if you're a hot girl that likes to read. Caught. Get ready to get sued. If you exist anywhere on bookish internet, you have to have seen this allieroseco hot girls read fiasco. Truly, there's no better situation to use the word fiasco. Like, this is the most fiasco I've ever seen. The buffoonery we're about to discuss is at a level that if you actually haven't heard of this, buckle up. I am flabbergasted by this situation, specifically because it was so self-inflicted and so avoidable and foreseeable. This is the most called, for lack of a better word, that I have felt to talk about an online book controversy in a long time. I have so many thoughts on this, it's not even funny. And I thought it would be kind of fun to get back to the roots of how I used to do these videos, where they're more get ready with me style, and it's just us gossiping about what's happening in the book world. Also, thank you guys for 50K subscribers. It's really, really crazy and I'm very excited about it. Please go give your suggestions of what you want the bonus video to be, and then I'll pick one from the suggestions and do it here in the coming weeks. But without further ado, let us discuss what's going on with allieroseco. One day, everybody was just scrolling Instagram, perusing their feeds, and up popped a reel from Miss allieroseco. It reads, "Hot Girls Read TM is officially ours. 3-ish years ago, after I started reading more consistently and finally started to love to read, I put Hot Girls Read on some bookmarks and crews, and the rest is freaking history. In the least corny way possible, that little phrase changed my life and changed the entire course of my business in a way I never saw coming. I love that because of those 3 words, a lot of you found me, and I love talking about books with you. This trademark is for the freaking girls. It's only right to celebrate with a big old Hot Girls Read drop. The biggest mock neck drop ever is coming next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'd love to celebrate with you because this is thanks to you." She also posted this on her story. "This is celebratory, of course, but I also want to very gently with peace and love say that I officially have the trademark for Hot Girls Read in the following categories: bookmarks, stickers, notebook covers / book covers, notepads, sweatshirts, t-shirts, hooded sweatshirts. I've seen Hot Girls Read on lots of items from other businesses that follow me, so if that is you, please remove those listings from your site as soon as possible. With love." Just with love, guys. Respectfully, and with the most peace and love imaginable, take your fucking listings down. With love, of course. And then her story had a bunch of posts on it, and some of them were showing what the merch is going to be for the drop she was talking about for new Hot Girls Read merch. But there's also this. "I was looking for part-time jobs in secret at the time I first launched Hot Girls Read because I didn't think business was turning around, LOL, but actually it was not funny at all at the time. Hot Girls Read is how I was able to continue to get new items in stock and on a bigger scale, how I was able to move to Wilm and grow my business. It sounds like a silly little phrase to most, but it's literally my lifeline and I love her to death. I love my hot girls who read and make reading fun. I didn't love reading growing up and now it's my favorite hobby and favorite part of my job. Grateful in a major way." Whoa, Nelly. Where do we even begin? Obviously, this caused immediate backlash. She came to Instagram and was like, "Oh my god, you guys, I'm so excited. I trademarked Hot Girls Read. Shouldn't we all celebrate?" And everybody was like, "You what?" So I don't think she got the reaction she was expecting, truthfully. For, I think, obvious reasons, but I'll break them down for you, just in case today's your first day on Earth, which sometimes it feels that way with people you'll interact with on the internet. The phrase Hot Girls Read has been around for like decades now. It's really hard to trace an exact origin. I've seen some people saying 2006. I don't really know where they're getting that year from. I could not find anything specific that was from that year, but maybe people are just saying it hyperbolically, like that's been around since like 2006, right? But it's been around for like definitely since the early 2000s. So the phrase predates 2019, but then in 2019, Megan Thee Stallion released Hot Girl and started talking about how it was Hot Girl Summer, and everybody agreed that it was in fact Hot Girl Summer. And that was a big thing at the time. People were saying hot girl this, hot girl that. Taking a hot girl walk was a big thing. And I know that a lot of the people on the internet are a little bit younger, so there genuinely might be some people in the book community who weren't paying as much attention at the time to remember this kind of stuff. But the hot girl summer craze actually, to me, is very similar to the recent brat craze and brat summer from a few years ago. So imagine if in like 5 years, somebody tried to trademark the phrase "that's brat." And that's kind of what happened. That's why most of us are like, what? You don't own that? What are you talking about? And not Charlie XCX, mind you. If Charlie XCX tried to trademark "that's brat," that would be very different. You see what I'm saying? She did not come up with this, nor does she own it. And not only is she saying like, I have the trademark now for all these merch items, but she's asking in this Instagram story for other people to take down any listings they have for any products that say Hot Girls Read. So this is obviously very awful for basically all of her peers. Like any other bookish merch. Oh, I didn't explain that. Sorry. Allieroseco is a bookish merch shop. She didn't start out that way, but from what I can tell more recently, basically all of her merch is bookish merch. Think like general merch for people who like to read. Stuff that says stuff like Hot Girls Read or in my reading era, or I would rather be reading. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, she didn't start out that way. She sold other merch originally, but it seems that more recently the majority of her merch is aimed at the bookish community. And so this really screws over any other bookish merch shops that have any listings that say Hot Girls Read. Because just for starters, if those are big bestsellers for them, then they're missing out on all of those profits moving forward. A lot of people are saying she like screwed them over and took profits from them for herself, which is true. That was what she was trying to do. But even if this were legally enforceable, which we'll get to in a second, but even if that were the case, I don't actually think that she would have profited off of this as much as she maybe thinks, because I don't know that anybody wants a t-shirt that specifically says Hot Girls Read enough. I think what probably happens is people are looking at these bookish merch shops, seeing the Hot Girls Read t-shirts and saying, oh, that's cute, I want that shirt. Not the other way around where somebody's like, I have to have a shirt that says Hot Girls Read, I need to find that. You know? And so I think even if she were able to make it so nobody else could sell that, I don't think that what would happen is all of the customers of those other shops would just be funneled to her. I think that instead people would just buy other stuff off those other sites, whatever else appeals to them, you know? But still, it's like she was trying to screw over her peers, basically, and be the only one profiting off of what is ultimately a communal phrase that she didn't come up with. I've seen some people saying this kind of stuff happens in business and people are just mad they didn't think of it first. There's a lot of things that happen in business that aren't ethical. Like, you know what else happens in business sometimes? Union busting. You know what else happens in business sometimes? Workers not being paid fairly or not being paid a living wage. Like, unethical things can happen. Not that I'm saying that this is of the same tier of those things, but you get what I'm saying. Unethical things happen in business. And just because they happen in business doesn't mean that we all just have to accept that it's going to happen in the businesses in our community. We can still set community boundaries and say, whoa, that's not okay. And that's what I mean about this being so foreseeable. Like, there occasionally is a controversy in our lovely bookish online space that just feels like somebody straight up not understanding the community at all, despite having their entire business being based around it. And I just don't understand how that happens. I don't understand how your whole life becomes bookish merch and you don't understand online book community culture. Because I truly think you would be hard pressed to find a niche that is more anti-corporation and pro-indie than the online book community. As much flack as we get from other people for the other crap that we do, as well as like give each other for some of the crazy things that people do in this community. One of the very giant positives that I can say is that this community is very anti-corporation, very pro-indie authors, pro-independent small businesses, anti-AI, right? Like, you can spend 5 minutes in the book community online and know that. So how did she not realize that like a sharky business move was going to be off-putting to the community that hates sharky businesses? She went to the community that hates corporations and sharky businesses and was like, oh my God, you guys, I pulled a really sharky business move. Isn't that so girl boss of me? Why did she think people were going to be like, yay, good for you, girl, so excited for you? The aspects of these statements that really send me are this trademark is for the freaking girls. Which girls? Are you individually girls? You are girls and you only? The majority of bookish merch sellers are also women. Oh, because I also forgot to mention that I was talking about how people would miss out on the profits of having those listings, but also if anybody has any backstock of products that say Hot Girls Read on it, then all the money they invested on pre-buying that stock so that they can sell it is now just lost money. If they actually can't sell it, which again, we'll get to in a second. But that really, really screws over her fellow small businesses, right? Basically screwing everybody else over to benefit herself. It's just not a good look, is it? And also the with love, like the energy of like, hey, guys, don't be mad. Like, I say this with the most love possible, but take those listings down because I have the trademark. This is not something you can do with love. If you wanted to move with love first, probably just shouldn't have done it. So anyway, people were not on her side. So then she posts this to her story. I've seen and read a lot of people's anger about me trademarking Hot Girls Read, so I want to chat about it and clear some things up the best I can. I filed this trademark to protect my products from others copying it, which is common to do when selling products. I was advised to trademark it when it initially started to gain traction from the bookmarks and sweatshirts in 2023. At that time, I didn't see anyone with apparel or bookmarks that said Hot Girls Read, although I'm not at all denying that they existed. Since the trademark went through, I haven't come after any small businesses / bookstores that sell products saying Hot Girls Read, asking them to take anything down directly. I did post a story outlining the categories I have the trademark in, giving a heads up that those items are included, and I asked if you have Hot Girls Read items in those categories to take them down from your site. There have been businesses that copied my work in its entirety, and the message was for them, although I see why it seemed like it came from a place of aggression or malice towards other small businesses that I was not referring to. My message wasn't clear, and I don't like the way it sounded. The goal is and was not meant to come after what? The goal is and was not meant to come after small. I think she just intends for that sentence to say the goal was not to come after small businesses. I don't intend to do that whatsoever. This trademark was simply to protect myself. How do you protect yourself without going after other businesses? The trademark not be so that you can go after people for violating your trademark, which would mean going after other small. Anyway, so let's go through this in order because I have so much to say about this. The first is I filed this trademark to protect my products from others copying it, and that she was advised to trademark it back in 2023 when she initially started selling this Hot Girls Read merch. I am not myself a lawyer. Shout out to the lawyers of the online book community because they've been kind of explaining how, even from a legal perspective, they don't think this is the best idea. The general gist that I've seen is if she actually was told to do this by a lawyer, she got really bad legal advice because having the trademark is apparently only part of the battle. The other part is defending that trademark. A lot of people have been asking how is it even possible for her to trademark it? I guess it is, and nobody's really broken down why, so we'll just, like, the lawyers are basically like, yeah, I mean, she got the trademark, obviously. But it's not necessarily about owning the trademark, it's about defending it. Essentially, the reasoning is that because it is such a common phrase, she now has to strike everybody using it for all of the merch that she listed. And if they refuse to take their listings down, then she'll have to take them to court. Like, can she afford to do that? Can she afford to take all these people to court? In which case, it's not really enforceable for that reason alone. But then you have to ask yourself, if a court case actually arose out of all of this, then the other party would have the opportunity to argue either why they don't think it was trademark infringement or why they don't think you should be able to own that trademark because of how common the phrase is. And even if there were to be a case that potentially it would be found that this is actually too common a phrase for a person to be able to trademark it, and that might be found at that point instead of when she was actually filing the trademark. Again, that's kind of based off of what I've seen lawyers say online, that it's like, well, yeah, she can get the trademark and she can have it, but can she enforce it? And if you can't enforce it, then what was the point? And so that's where I'm saying, like, that's another layer of this being foreseeable and preventable on Allie's part, that something like this could have happened. Did you think everybody was just gonna nicely take their listings down and listen to you? Like, it would be completely different if it was one other person actually just copying your whole entire brand and pretending to be you. Then trademarking it and striking them specifically, and if they don't listen, taking them to court, makes perfect sense. But this is like a very general phrase. Like, she cannot afford to take all of these small businesses to court. I do not want to sit here and tell you not to take your listings down if you have Hot Girl Read merch, because she probably can't sue all of you guys, and so there's safety in numbers. Like, I'm not telling you that, because that would be me telling you to violate somebody's trademark, and I certainly would never want to do that publicly. That's just food for thought for you to make your own decision with if you are a small business who's affected by this. So anyway, since then, this whole situation has gotten massive on book internet, to the point where we've started to see the jokes of, we fight about everything on book internet. This is such a uniting thing. Like, everybody on book internet is banding together to be like, whoa, I know we all fight with each other all the time, but whatever you're up to over there, none of us are cool with. Let's pause our fighting for a second to tell you, absolutely not. And I think you can tell that I am one of those people. I do not agree with this. I don't think this was right of her. And I do think that, thankfully, it doesn't seem like it actually is going to end up negatively affecting her peers, because it does seem like I said, there's safety in numbers potentially, and also that some people are banding together to petition to dispute her trademark, and so potentially she is going to lose the trademark. I also think that if she's smart, when she returns to the internet, if she does it all, it'll be to say, hey guys, I was wrong for doing this, I'm giving up the trademark. She hasn't done that as of now, but I do think that that is probably the most likely response from her out the other side of all of this, right? But if this was such an obviously bad idea, both because of how the book community is, but also because of the actual legal side of it, like it's a bad idea from a legal perspective because it doesn't really help her, and it was a really bad idea from a PR perspective, and both of those things I think are foreseeable, then why did she do it? And in order to understand that, we do have to talk about how trademarking is about branding specifically. And it's supposed to be for when something is so unique to you and your business, say the business name, the logo, or some really common product or phrase that you are known for, to the point where if people saw it, you are the person they would think of. It's to protect against confusion. So imagine if trademarking wasn't a thing and some product gets really popular. Say, I really like these Edam lip, what are they called? Lip softening balm. I'm obsessed with these. I have like a bunch of them now. These have been getting really popular, right? Say that when this came out and everybody was like, oh my God, that's such a good product. Then all of a sudden there were like 17 packages that looked exactly like this that said Edam on them. And they were identical. Like, I know that dupes are a thing, but you can tell they're dupes, and you can always tell what the original is because the dupes are not able to exactly copy the original to the point where you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. That's what a trademark does. So Edam, I assume, is trademarked. If somebody were to try to completely mimic this packaging, they cannot do that. It's to protect against consumer confusion. So when you go to the store, you know you are getting the Edam lip softening balm. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if I was saying their company name correctly. I'm sorry if I was not. So that's where we have to get to the next section of her statement. That's why I said all that. Because she goes on to say, at the time, I didn't see anyone with apparel or bookmarks that said Hot Girls Read, although I'm not at all denying that they existed. Okay, I've never seen a capybara with my own two eyes. That does not mean they don't exist. And if I were to just build an entire brand off of the idea that capybaras are a myth, and I told you it's because I've never seen one with my own two eyes, and there's like all this evidence, why not just do a Google search? In fact, I believe there is an animal conservatory in your area that has capybaras that your friend keeps trying to get you to go to because he really likes the tegu they have. Why didn't you just go there to see if the capybaras are real? And I was like, well, I don't know, I've never seen one. You didn't do a single Google search to see if other people were selling the merch before you decided to start the trademarking process? It would take you about 30 seconds of research to find Hot Girls Read merch listings from prior to when she started selling it. And so even if she did think at some point, I kind of thought I was the only one doing this and now I'm seeing a bunch of other people do it, should I trademark this? It feels like step one would be looking into it to make sure you actually were the first one to do it. And once you see that you're not, being like, oh, okay, I didn't invent it, so I guess I don't have a right to do that, right? And so the question becomes, does she actually think that she invented and or popularized this phrase? Or does she know that she didn't and she's just trying to use that as a cover? I don't think that that changes the ethics of this discussion at all. It really doesn't matter to me personally which it is, but I will just tell you that when I was doing my research for this, I scrolled pretty far back on her TikTok. I didn't watch all her TikToks the way I've done with other controversies in the past because she has posted way more TikToks than other creators I've done that with. But I did scroll back and kind of watch over time and try to get a feel for like how her platform has grown and how her business has changed. And this is not the first merch that she has sold that says Hot Girl blank on it. The first that I could find of anything that says that was a trio of shirts, one that says Hot Girls Shop Small, one that says Hot Girls Cry, and one that says Hot Girl Walk. And to me, this is the most damning piece of evidence that she knew about the popularity of these phrases. Because as I've already mentioned in the video, Hot Girl Walk was a massive thing back then. taking my little hot girl walk. Like that was like a huge thing back then. So she knew about the popularity of that phrase. So presumably she knew about all the hot girl summer stuff. And not only that, but based off of when she said she graduated college, I think she and I are around the same age. I vividly remember hot girl walk. I mean, so I don't really think it's likely that she didn't realize how popular the phrase was. I think it's honestly a lot more likely that she just realized nobody else had it trademarked and thought that she could get away with trademarking it. So why would she do that, right? Was it just to funnel people to her page to get that merch? Well, as I've already mentioned, trademarking is supposed to be a branding thing, and it's supposed to help prevent against consumer confusion. You can protect things that are very identifiable to your brand to stop people from using those things to confuse consumers into purchasing their products because they think they're your products. In order to also explain this, I do have to say something kind of rude, and you guys know I don't love to do those in these videos, but her merch is very generic and, in my opinion, very bland. And I can tell you, as somebody who's existed on bookish internet for a long time now, that if I saw a crew neck that just said Hot Girls Read on it in monochrome embroidery, there's no individual business that I would think of. In fact, if I saw one of my peers here on YouTube selling this as merch, I would think they drop shipped it. That is how generic it is. And so what I think happened, and this is just my speculation, what probably happened is that a few years ago, she was selling this Hot Girls Read merch, and what she wanted was for people to see the phrase Hot Girls Read or see a sweatshirt that says Hot Girls Read on it and immediately think of allieroseco. And because that wasn't happening, instead of thinking to herself, well, how do I give myself a specific enough brand for that to happen? Maybe to do unique and cool enough designs with the Hot Girls Read that people would recognize them as mine, even if the phrase itself isn't something that people would recognize as mine, or just to come up with something that is more unique and original to me that I actually might have a right to trademark that could become what I base the brand around, right? Instead of doing either of those things, it seems that she decided to trademark this very common thing to force other people to stop using it so that she could be the only one using it, so that it could become her brand and her brand only, instead of being just a piece of merch that most bookish merch sellers have. That's what I think happened. Because then we get into her next paragraph where she explains that this was for protecting her designs from people copying her exact designs. Now, this is what she is saying was her reasoning. I don't really believe her. Obviously, I've just told you what my speculation was on her reasoning. The reason why I don't believe her here has layers. The first is that a lot of other bookish merch sellers have been talking about this situation, and many of them have explained that your design, if you drew it and if it actually is original to you, then even if the concept is kind of generic like Hot Girls Read, you do own that specific design. So if there is somebody actually just copy and pasting your design, then you have an implicit right over that, and you have avenues to handle that don't involve trademarking. And that even then, you can also trademark designs if you do feel that a design is unique enough to you. And so she had the avenue of trademarking a design that had the words Hot Girls Read in it, and she also had the avenue of handling design copying in different ways that don't involve trademarking at all. Why didn't she take any of those routes instead of doing this, right? But the second thing is that trademarks cannot be selectively enforced. I've seen a bunch of people say you can't do it, but I have over the years in various trademark disputes online seen lawyers say that's not exactly true, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. But the sentiment is generally true. Like, generally speaking, to keep a trademark, you have to enforce it and you have to go after anybody violating it. But there is nuance to that, I think. But all of that to say, her saying, I just did this to protect my business. I don't want to go after other small businesses. It's only for people who are exactly copying my designs. But you can't just go after the people who are only copying your designs. You would have to also go after those other people. And I just think this is contradictory. The statement says the goal was not, like, that sentence is kind of misworded, so forgive me for paraphrasing, but she essentially says the goal was not meant to come after small businesses. I don't intend to do that whatsoever. This trademark was simply to protect myself. Those statements contradict each other. How can you protect yourself with this trademark without going after other small businesses that are also using that phrase? That is how the trademark would help you protect your business, no? I don't even think all of this is the most damning evidence to my opinion that I think she's lying a little bit here about what her original motivations were and what she was trying to do. And that this was her trying to kind of cover when she realized she wasn't getting the reaction she thought she was gonna get. Because in her original statement to her story, the way that she words it is, I've seen hot girls read on lots of items from other businesses that follow me, so if that is you, please remove those listings from your site as soon as possible, with love. And here's the thing, as I've already mentioned, I have scrolled overarchingly through her TikTok and watched, again, not every single TikTok, but kind of through the eras to get a vibe for what her overall presence online has been over time. And I can tell you that, say what you will about that girl, but she knows how to market. The way that she stages her products in videos that she knows would end up on the For You page of people who might be interested in those products, but it's not obviously her trying to garner interest in it. The way she talks about her launches, like, there is a reason why she's had success, and it's because she understands marketing. And not only that, it's because she understands marketing through subtlety almost. Like, there are videos where she's more overtly selling things to you, but there are just videos where she's making a more book talk centered TikTok, but she's obviously wearing her merch or using it in some way. And I'm not saying that's unique to her. If you want to have a successful bookish merch business online, then you should know how to do that. But what I'm saying is she obviously knows how to do that. So you understand marketing, you understand messaging, and you understand how to do this subtly. And you're telling me that given years of you showing evidence that you know how to do all of that, that you posted a statement saying, I've seen hot girls read on lots of items from other businesses that follow me, so if that is you, please remove those listings from your site as soon as possible, with love, and did not realize that people would read that and think you meant any business with hot girl read on bookmarks, stickers, notebook covers, /book covers, notepads, sweatshirts, t-shirts, and hooded sweatshirts. Like, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I just don't believe her. I don't believe her. I don't believe that that wasn't her intention. Again, I don't have any concrete evidence to that, and she has said that that's not true, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I do believe, given the way she rolled this out versus the tone of that statement after she realized people weren't reacting the way she maybe thought they would, that she realized that people weren't on her side with this and tried to retreat back to a more defensible explanation for what she was trying to do. Because everybody is for defending small businesses against design stealing, except for people who steal designs from small businesses. Like, those are kind of the only people who think that should be fine. And so I do think this is her trying to retreat back to that, because she knows that that's something that people would be like, oh, okay, well, if you're trying to protect your designs and that's all you're trying to do, then sure. But I just don't believe that that was actually all she was trying to do. I just think that's what she's saying. That's what she was trying to do now. That's just my 2 cents. Take that with a grain of salt. So one of the things that's happened in the aftermath of it is that people have found a lot of examples of her using other people's intellectual property to sell product over the years. Specifically, one of her core products were bookmarks that are Pantone paint swatches, sometimes for book series. Apparently it's just series. I got a comment from somebody that was so funny. That was them being like, girl, it's just series. Every time you say series, I feel so bad for you because you're like stumbling over it. You only have to say, like, the plural of series is series. So she was like low-key roasting me, but also looking out for me. She was like, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to struggle with all of that. Just say series. I fully said that with love. I'm not mad at that commenter. I thought the comment was really funny. But yeah, she would put book series on a bookmark with the colors of the different book covers and all the titles of the different books, and that was a kind of product she would sell. She also apparently did it with Taylor Swift albums at some point, which is important to point out because the titles of books, apparently it's complicated to trademark that, and so most book titles aren't trademarked. Apparently that's a legal minefield. I'm not really sure why. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but for sure Taylor has the titles of her albums trademarked. That we don't have to question. So that means that this product is committing trademark infringement, I believe. It's just kind of hypocritical, right? Like, here she is trademarking a phrase that she didn't come up with and doesn't really have a right to own, only for her to be potentially committing trademark infringement in situations where people do have a right to own it. All right, my camera died, and also my neighbor was doing yard work. So if the lighting and or exact camera location have shuffled, that is why. All I'm saying is she has a history of not always selling the most original products or products that are original to her. But as I've already said, I actually think that that's part of why this happened. I agree it's hypocritical. I'm not saying it's not, but I also think that her not having her own original ideas potentially is part of what led to this happening. Because if she did, then she would just have built her brand around something original to her instead of trying to build it around something that everybody was doing. She has taken down the reel where she announced the trademark. She did still have Hot Girls Read TM in her bio for a while, but actually let me live check on if that's still true. It is still true. But she could just be away from the internet, so. But she did take down the reel where she announced this trademark. Obviously, the stories aren't up anymore because those expire. And she has since gone on vacation mode on TikTok Shop, so you can't buy products on there and stuff. Like, she's kind of taken a step back from the internet. But she hasn't put out another statement about it yet. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to be until she does. I don't know if she ever will. Maybe she'll just disappear. I'll just say that I do think that the only chance she has at salvaging this is to rescind the trademark voluntarily. If she tries to keep that trademark or justify it at all in the aftermath of this, then I think it's very likely that this ends up being, unfortunately, the end of her business. And it might honestly be anyway. I mean, I do believe that pretty much any situation is salvageable if you handle the PR about it right. Obviously, she's already had some missteps, but I don't think we're far enough along. Like, I do think that if she were to come out, be really apologetic, and rescind the trademark voluntarily, I'm not saying that I would feel inclined to purchase any products from her at that point, and I don't know if anybody else would be. But anyway, the last thing I want to talk about today is the pendulum that we can sometimes see, not just in our community, but on the internet in general, when it comes to situations like this. Because it's a thought I've kind of had building for a while, and I think that this situation is kind of the perfect example of a lot of what I want to say about it. I want to explain what both ends of the pendulum are and kind of generally what my thoughts on it are before I go into specifics, because I want to make something really clear up front. Essentially what I'm talking about is situations where backlash starts, and so the pendulum starts swinging in the direction of backlash. And then there are some people, not everybody, who take it way too far and end up doing crazy stuff. And because of that, the pendulum starts to swing back in the other direction, where you start to have people speaking out against the people who've taken things too far. And they'll be like, whoa, 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 okay, maybe what this person did was wrong, but two wrongs don't make a right. And I kind of feel like you guys over there are wrong too. Like, two things can be true at once, and this person can be in the wrong, and you can also low-key be in the wrong for what you're trying to do to them, even though they're in the wrong as well. Two things can be true at once. You see what I'm saying? And that I agree with. But then they'll take that and say, and so we should all just stop criticizing that person and leave them alone. And that's where you've lost me, and that's where I think the pendulum swings too far. Here's my stance on it. Each individual person is ultimately only responsible for themselves and their behavior. And we can speak out against behavior that we view to be unethical, which I will do in a second, which is some of the people taking it too far thing. But that doesn't mean that the fair criticism needs to go away, right? To me, it's about each of us splitting that balance of understanding where the line is. And there's a reason why there's so much art made about where that line is. When you are fighting against somebody doing something wrong, at what point have you crossed the line? How do we know we're the good guys? Why do we get to call ourselves the good guys? This is not a clear-cut question, right? Has been and will be a human existence long debate, because it is a gray area. This isn't that like intense a situation. This isn't the same thing as like fighting back against an oppressive government or something, right? At the same time, on a very small scale, those principles still apply. There is the realm of ethical pushing back against somebody's malicious actions and becoming malicious yourself. And we all, each individually, are responsible for ourselves understanding that and keeping ourselves in the range of ethical. That being said, when there are people who take things too far, that does not negate the fair criticism. That does not cancel it out. The fair criticism is the fair criticism. The people doing shitty things to Allie now, because they don't like her because of this, are people who are doing shitty things. And these are separate things. Again, two things can be true at the same time. Allie could have done something wrong, and she could be getting fair backlash and fair consequences for her actions, and also be getting unfair, I don't even want to call it consequences, but people who are taking things too far. And those things can exist at the same time. And just because the taking things too far exists doesn't mean that we all have to stop the fair side of the criticism. You guys see what I'm saying? And so I did want to take a second and talk about some of the things that I have seen that I think are taking things too far. But I wanted to break that down first because I want to make it very clear that I do not think that this negates what Allie has done, nor do I think it means that we all need to leave her alone now. I am simply saying that I think that these individual people have taken things too far, and there's certain things that I have seen that I don't approve of, and I want to talk about it because I think it's important for all of us that we keep our community boundaries in appropriate places. Some people have just straight up made some things up about her. One of the rumors I actually did find the origin of, but I didn't screenshot it, story of my life, and I can't find it again because the person might have deleted it. But there is a rumor out there now that she is MAGA and a big Trump supporter. That is not true. There's a lot of evidence that it's the opposite. Not only is she not a Trump supporter, but she has used her platform to speak out against Trump repeatedly, and had a t-shirt for a while on her store that said "Hot Girls Vote" that she would wear in videos where she was trying to encourage people to go out and vote for Kamala. Yes, she was also trying to sell a shirt. I'm just saying, she has been very verbally, obviously open, loud, and proud about not being a supporter of Trump. So where did this rumor start? Well, I did see a thread where I saw somebody post a screenshot of them searching allieroseco on Instagram. And one of the images that popped up was a white and beige Trump hat. And they went on to post it and say, oh, look at that. Makes perfect sense. She's a Trumpy. To be fair, people immediately responded and said, hey, that was you searching her at on Instagram. You were not looking at her page. And when you search, even when you search a specific at on Instagram, Instagram does not show you only posts from the at you searched. It often, in fact, I would say every single time, recommends other posts too. And the search on Instagram is actually so bad that I can tell you from the perspective of somebody who does research for these videos sometimes on Instagram, you'll search the exact at and it won't be the first thing to pop up. It won't be the second thing to pop up. It'll be like fifth or sixth. Like you'll have to scroll through a bunch of photos before you find a photo from the exact at you searched. Why? Meta, fix it. But anyway, this person took this Trump hat being one of the recommended photos to mean that this was posted by Allie. Anybody with a brain who uses Instagram should have known that that doesn't mean she posted it. And like I said, 2 seconds of research into her page and you can find videos of her speaking out against Trump. She has a post celebrating that Biden got elected instead of Trump as well. So yeah, that's not true. And I can't believe the person didn't even check to see if the post was actually made by her. And so it does feel like it potentially was still malicious, unfortunately. Like I said, I saw that. I didn't screenshot it, so you'll just have to take my word for it. And I don't know if that is the actual origin of the rumor, but that would make sense to me. The other rumor I've seen is that she has already sent takedown notices to different Etsy shops. That's not true. Some Etsy shops have gotten messages from people saying that that trademark is now owned and so they should take those listings down, but none of those messages have been sent by Allie herself. Because of that, I've seen some people accusing her of using sock puppet accounts to send these messages. And you'll see people saying, oh, they're sent by loyal customers or fans of hers. And they say that she's doing this to cover her tracks. That doesn't make any sense. She obviously thought that she was going to get a much more positive reaction to this than she got. I'm assuming she's been very surprised by this. So prior to her posting it, if she were planning on sending notices, would she not have just sent them from her account? Why would she bother to make sock puppet accounts, right? And after she got the backlash, why would she do that? Because she had to know that that was just going to make the backlash worse, no? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't believe that these were sock puppet accounts. I believe they genuinely were fans of hers. Again, I just want to keep the criticism on the things she actually did. She did not tell her fans to send those. She did not encourage them. She did not imply anything. She just posted herself about the trademark and asked people to take stuff down, generally speaking. And so I think some of her fans took that and took it upon themselves to message people on her behalf without her permission. And I have empathy for that as somebody else who has a platform. You can say until you're blue in the face that you don't want people to do stuff, and they will still do it in your name, unfortunately. And you just have to do your best to speak out against it when it happens and try really hard to make it clear that that's not stuff you're okay with. And so I don't think it's fair to blame her for that. I will wait for proof that those are her sock puppet accounts before I'll believe it. And I think that that's fair. But really the big thing I want to talk about, I already talked about how people raised money to petition her trademark to be removed. And to be clear, I think that's great. I just wanted to clarify that that is different from what I'm about to talk about. People have also raised money to trademark her business name, because she actually trademarked Hot Girls Read before she trademarked allieroseco. Now, I do think it's possible that that means she was potentially going to shift her actual brand name to Hot Girls Read, especially given what a trademark is. But you would think that if that's what she was doing, she would have announced it with the trademark and the launch of the new merch. So I go back and forth on that in my mind. If she is planning on keeping her business name allieroseco, it is an interesting order of operations of priorities to trademark this very common phrase before you trademark your business name. But somebody crowdfunded money to maliciously file a trademark under her business name just to mess with her and give her a taste of her own medicine. Didn't anyone ever tell you that two wrongs don't make a right? Don't hate me, don't hate me, because I know this is going to be a really unpopular opinion because I haven't seen that many people speaking out against this, or if they have, then it's what I was saying about the pendulum swinging super far in the other direction, where it seems to only be people who think we should all stop criticizing her altogether who are saying that that's not okay. I don't agree with either side on that. I think it's fair for those of us who are being fair to her to sit and share our fair criticism. And I think that's okay, regardless of what other people do. I don't have control over them and I'm not responsible for their behavior. But that being said, I'm not gonna celebrate this because I don't think it's right. If your moral compass only applies to people that you like, then you don't have a moral compass. To me, defending the small businesses that might be impacted by this looks like supporting the petition to get the Hot Girls Read trademark rescinded, and if there are lawsuits that come out of this, supporting the people who are sued as well, and potentially going and buying merch from them as a way to support them also as well. To me, the consequences of Allie's actions look like the criticism she's getting and the reputational hit, and the fact that it is very likely that her business does not survive this. Because people are rightfully pointing out that what does it say about her as a person? What does it say about Allie that she tried to claim ownership over something that isn't hers to own and knew that doing it would screw over other small businesses, and not only seemed to not care about that, but was posting about it with peace and love, with love energy. And it does just kind of paint her in a very bad light. But similarly, what does it say about some of y'all that your reaction to that was to jump to eye for an eye? Because to me, if it wasn't necessary to defend the other small businesses, because we have the route of petitioning to just have the Hot Girls Read trademark rescinded, and if it wasn't necessary for her to face consequences for her actions because she is facing those natural consequences just by nature of people being really mad at her, then this was not necessary to ensure that justice was served. That's just my 2 cents. I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, as I've already said, because I haven't really seen that many people with this stance. I've either seen people say, yeah, woo, or I've seen people saying, yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, but it's the consequences of her actions, so whatever. Like, no, I don't agree with that. I don't think this is the consequences of her actions. I think it's a completely separate thing and unethical on its own. That's my worldview, that's my stance, that's the moral compass I operate by. If you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me, and that's fine, but that's just where I stand on it. I just couldn't in good conscience make this video without saying that. But similarly, I'll just round this out by saying that that doesn't mean that I think that we all need to leave Allie alone. I just think 2 things can be true at once. And I think there's a lot of us giving her very fair criticism, and she is getting very fair and merited backlash, and I don't think that that needs to stop just because there are some people out there taking things too far. But that also doesn't mean that we all need to just sit and let those people take things too far and not say, whoa, you took things over the line. So that's where I stand. And that is the overarching situation. How do you guys feel about this? Like I said, I'm assuming you've seen it by now. If you made it all the way through, yet another person talking about it, I do appreciate it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!